nation's roots spread wide and down. Our nation's roots spread wide and down. 'Cause we're citizens of the world. And you're more than welcome here. And you're more than welcome here. And you're more than welcome here. 'Cause we're citizens of the world.
Ooh, not a big fan.
Well, we've just...
Oh, that's all.
Well, we've just come back from a big old demo in Seacroft, and we're joined by Chris Singleton.
Hiya.
It was a demo against you, wasn't it, Chris?
It was, purely against me. The people of Seacroft rose up to overthrow my tyranny.
Yeah.
I know, now that we've come back, I do start to feel a bit bad about it, Chris. I'm sorry. It felt like a lot against one, to be honest.
No, it's fine, because I was there on the demo against me. I was also...
No more, Chris. No more, Chris.
Yeah, I was
no
fine
more,
with
Chris.
chance. It was great.
Yeah. No, we've just come back from a demo because far-right groups, different factions, but Patriotic Alternative, Northwest Infidels and other such bad uns have called a demonstration against...
Wrong-uns they are, aren't they?
Ooh, right, wrong-uns then.
They are opposing the refugees in the Britannia Hotel in Seacroft, and generally that links into them hating refugees, asylum seekers, immigrants, trans people, women, anyone that's different, anyone that doesn't fit into their flag-waving...
defined tiny group of...
white nationalism.
Tiny group.
So to paint the scene, there was like 50 of them, mostly blokes.
Outside the pub, as soon as me and Henry arrived, that was our first thing. Was like, oh, they've cornered the section with the pub in it.
Is there nothing these people won't sink to take away our pub?
That's the final straw.
Waving massive Union Jack flags and with like phrases like "No more immigration, refugees out." One bloke looked like Mr. Toad. Like, what you said, he's like judging a horse competition.
Like he was judging a horse competition.
Oh,
He
really?
genuinely, I swear he had little rosettes on him and everything. Like,
Tweed!
ready to
Little
judge.
tweed and wellies.
He'd won racism.
My favourite... Oh, the most racist horse of the day. No, it was the one with that had brought his Leeds United flag, which always upsets me as a Leeds fan, but doubly so, like, you know, when I'm there. When he had the blue and yellow trailing from his Yorkshire flag and was making all his lovely anti-immigration, anti-refugee chants, and I was like, those are the Ukrainian colours. I was like, that's really unfortunate for you. I don't know if he knew or not.
So
So the counter demo.
Yeah, Stand Up to Racism organised one. Lots of different trade unions were there. Someone from Trans Leeds spoke.
They spoke brilliantly, as did the local Reverend Anne, she was one of my favourite speakers, I think, who said something really I didn't know before, which is that the churches in Seacroft not only are like some of the oldest buildings standing, but the new ones in the 50s were built by local people. So it was just 3 couples sat in the front room going, we could really do with a church around here, and then they just everyone put in their tuppence to build a community building, and so she was talking about standing with working people and standing with everyone.
And they do good work, like lots of work in the community as a church.
Yeah. And food banks and all sorts.
How many tuppences does a church cost? That's my takeaway from this.
Yeah, we should find out.
How many tuppences would you need? Is a tuppence worth tuppence now? Is it worth multiple tuppences? I feel like I'm derailing.
Tuppeny.
Tuppeny.
But we've been sat here doing the usual post-protest breakdown. It's always a mixture of feelings, isn't it? About what have we just done? What's happened there? I mean, what did happen is that we marched away from the village green, up to the hotel, and sung lots of positive songs and positive chants. There was a brilliant chant that was made up by someone about, what was it? Welcome, Britannia.
Britannia refugees.
We will... I can't. I'm doing the real one.
You are welcome here from overseas.
That's it. Yeah. We'll get the audio.
Welcome, Britannia, Britannia refugees. You are welcome here from overseas.
Woo!
Very good. Woo! What do Henry.
Proper banging.
I was behind the people that made the chant up when they were doing it, and you guys were on the front line with a flag, waving it very firmly at cars and people. You weren't. You were just.
It's great when we get people honking support.
Yeah, there was lots of honking.
A lot less great when people shout wankers out their window and do their little stick two fingers up
and then go round the roundabout to come again to do it again.
Anyway, my point was it was really nice. It was like a group of 3 or 4 friends, I think, who'd all come together, and they were all trying to find the right words. And then one of them was like, "Overseas, overseas!" And it was this wonderful
it was great.
moment.
I think it's the greatest moment in the history of the left-wing movement.
I would say so. It's definitely up there.
And then the right wing, the far right, came for their march and just went round one of the small roundabouts, but we were sort of in between them and the hotel. So the main thing is that we're hoping that positive chants were heard and over the ones that were filled full of hate.
There were certainly some faces waving from windows at the Britannia Hotel, which is nice to see.
And we got a couple of messages sent through that was read out on the megaphone.
Care for Calais have been working with those guys in the Britannia Hotel, and we'll have connections to them, and I'm sure they'll feel less.
They have a WhatsApp group, I think, that connects to lots of people in the hotel.
So it's almost like, I don't know, we're theatre makers. We come to this language of audience, who was this for? Well, it's for the refugees to feel like they are supported and loved and welcome. It's for the far right to feel like they're not welcome and they didn't manage to march up as far as they did before, and that they were opposed. And I think there were less of them than when they marched back in February, and I came and watched, and there was no opposition to them. It's also for us to feel like we're united and connected, and even though all the speeches, we sort of all know it, we all broadly agree that it's a bit of a revitalise and a reminder of to keep going for it. In terms of the people of Seacroft, well, pro and against, I don't know if we change any minds, but I also don't know.
That's the conversation, isn't it? I don't think the protest is there to change anyone's mind. She's certainly not going to change anyone's mind who's on the other side. I also think there's a strong argument for, which has been happening amongst various organisations and people who work around here, that to have a counter protest isn't that useful, and that having certainly there can be really strong language used by certain unions and stuff about come and counter the Nazis and stuff. So if you've got someone who's maybe not very political, who's just a working person or struggling on the streets, and they're maybe just hear that, if someone's I do think that we should put us first before other people, that, you hear that rhetoric around because it's there's a lot of council housing around here, there's loads of people who can't get jobs, so that is the sense, that's why the far right are dangerous here, is because they can stoke up this they're the problem, the people in the hotel, they've been given a hotel, but you haven't been given a council house. So that then jumping into that with language come and counteract the Nazis, even if they that might be true on some level, can be problematic. And certainly if you're talking about changing people's minds, working on the grassroots and working in communities through trying to feed people, get them skilled up, getting people connected with their neighbours, all that kind of soft stuff that we do a lot of. That's the stuff that prevents people gravitating towards far right groups and leanings, I think, far more than a protest will. That doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. I still went, and but that's just I don't think that's the purpose of a protest. As you say, the purpose is to demonstrate. It's a demonstration. It's a physical demonstration that there is an alternative other than the patriotic alternative.
I'd like to hear from Chris Singleton.
I was going to confirm what Nat was saying about yes, there is a purpose to protest and to being there, I think, which is for me.
But now you're gonna disagree.
Now I'm going to say it was all rubbish. No, I'm really glad that you turned out to protest against me. That was For me personally, it was being that extra wall, extra protection, or extra show of solidarity just for the people in the hotel of going, actually, no, we're here and we care enough to come out and not stop this, because we can't stop the far right from being there, but to offer something alternative, to make sure that their voices were definitely not the loudest voices that were out in Seacroft today. And like you said, they kind of went round the roundabout, turned away and went back. Whereas had we not been there, all of those grass verges could have been used by them in high visibility of the hotel, within audible range of the hotel. They could have stayed there for however long they.
Yeah. We definitely claimed the much more visible spaces, people driving
past. What would you call that? Like a dual carriageway with two. We're in between two major roundabouts, aren't we? That go from North Leeds towards York and along the ring road and that. So it's a very visible spot. Wait, Henry, you said something interesting before. For the first time ever.
Whoa!
And it was about... I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Whoa!
I got too distracted by making a dig.
It was a good bit there, to be fair.
I will say, I think we get bogged down in speeches, and I think it is nice that different perspectives, different people have their say. They're all saying the right thing, and we all agree and clap. But I think a couple of speeches... 10 minutes of banging tunes,
absolutely,
and then some speeches, some songs, especially as there's lots of Seacroft kids were hovering around. Put on some grime, some Bangra, some music that comes from immigrant communities to show that isn't this a glorious thing. They played Dolly Parton and the Style Council. No, I love Dolly Parton and I love the Style Council, but those Seacroft kids would have responded so much if we were the side playing Stormzy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what 8-year-olds listen to. Well, thank you for joining us, Chris Singleton.
I mean, I came for the tea and I stayed for the chat.
What are you up to? Go on, give yourself a little plug. Bearing in mind this will probably go out in October.
That's perfect timing, actually, because Brave Words' next play is on in November. So it's called Mutton, and it's about Mary Bateman, who was a witch in Leeds, but it's also about the communities of Leeds and how living under a political system that doesn't listen to us and doesn't value us can make us into less empathetic people.
I can't relate to that.
Wow.
That's a curveball out of nowhere.
It's completely irrelevant to
Where can people find out more about Mutton?
It is on our website, bravewords.co.uk/mutton, and it'll be on at Chapel FM in Seacroft, which is, of course, very relevant to now, and also 3 other places across the area.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
The left thanks you.